All right, we're going live. We're going live. We'll do it live. All right. Greetings. It's Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. This is our Anyone Can Farm live chat Tuesday night edition. Today is the 16th of July, 2024, and a momentous weekend that we had for a lot of different reasons. I got some sun whacking me right in the face here. Things probably look different to you. Okay, that's better. Because the board that I usually have here was repurposed. We needed to use it for something else. We had Tribe Day this weekend, and so the subject for tonight's show is community, right? And I want to talk about some of the nuances of community. Sometimes I say community because I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh, the mighty Rusty Limbaugh, when he was on, and he used to do a thing about Al Sharpton, and Al Sharpton used to call it community, people in the community. But anyway, Tribe Day, for those of you who don't know, is a weekend we always do it the weekend after the 4th of July. We stop production on the farm and we open the place up for visitors. And usually they're people that we know. Sometimes there's people that we don't know that just follow our channel and follow our antics. So I did meet some new people this weekend that stayed with us for the whole weekend. It's pretty cool. But we spend a little time getting the place spruced up and, family friendly. And we open up the cafe. The cafe is actually our old butcher shop. So our new butcher shop is across the driveway, bigger building. The old butcher shop has a kitchen and then a big open area, and we call it the cafe. You can go in there and you can get fries and burgers and stuff like that, for people that didn't bring their own food. So it starts generally about noon on Friday, although we always have people that say, I can come early. And that used to really bother me. But you know what I do now? I keep a mental list in my head that when somebody shows up early and they say, oh, can I help you with anything? I have things for them to do so they're out of my way. And, I had that going. I had a whole pile of lumber over at the cabin. I had all the tools over there, everything generator. People showed up, but they immediately started doing this thing called fellowshipping. They started talking with each other and having a fun time. All right, so before I get going, I really want to talk about this in depth tonight. But before we do, I'd like to tell you that this show is going to be sponsored by the Anyone Can Farm experience. And the Anyone Can Farm experience is a program that we have to teach people how to do stuff. We've been doing this a long time, and we open up the farm and we'll do like a chicken processing day, which we have one coming up June, July. Tribe Day, this 27th. Yeah, the 27th, Saturday. And I'll tell you more about that as we get closer to it. Wait a minute. Could that be? Let me look. I got to get up and get close to this so I can read it. Chicken processing half day. Yeah. Yeah, it's the 27th. So this is going to be a modified class. We're not going to be talking about construction of chicken tractors or field operations. We're just going to be processing. And for more information about that, you can just go to theanyonecanfarmexperience.com and you can read all about it, or go to bakersgreenacres.com and look for it there. And if that doesn't work, personal message us and we'll get back to you with it. But it is a half-day class. I don't think we include lunch with that. It's just to teach you how to process. And I'm hoping it's the second half of the day. It probably is. So we can get our stuff done in the morning. I'd also like to bring to your attention one of our tribesmen, Keith Sutton. And he's here. How you doing, Keith? He got so darn motivated that he was up on the roof of a little shop that he's building out, and he fell off. And he broke a few ribs and cracked a vertebrae and did quite a bit of damage. So he's been in the hospital for a while now. And it looks like he's going to be about a year fully recovering. But I talked to him just a little while ago, maybe an hour and a half ago. Sounds like he's doing okay, but not great. But his spirits are high. And, he got himself good and motivated to get into the farming, get his homestead up to speed, which he did. And then he just went a little too far with it, which, I mean, we all do that, we all do that. But this one cost him a little bit. So if y'all could keep Keith Sutton in your prayers and pray for a speedy recovery. He was supposed to be here this weekend and do our, anyone can farm church service on Sunday, but I think he didn't want to do it. So that's why he jumped off the roof. Right. And it's just an excuse. But he's been a real help in everything that we've done here for quite a while now. So if we could all, just offer up a little prayer to him, for him, about him, and pray for a speedy recovery and morale boost for him and his wife. They got a lot going there, and I know she's probably running hard to keep things under control. So we're going to have to do something here. Not sure what we're going to do, but okay, so what we have going here right now, actually, I might as well add this in. I want to let you know about this because this just came on our radar yesterday. It's kind of devastating news, actually, for us, and pretty devastating for Covey, too. Covey is our intern, and he was with us all last season. So he was with us from Memorial Day all the way to Labor Day and helped us out a lot, right? Because this is a labor-intensive operation that we have here. And Covey really gave it everything he had last year. So much so that we asked if he'd like to come back this year. And he graciously accepted the offer. And we couldn't have done Tribe Day without him because he ran the kitchen. And that's an integral part of the operation. He had everything organized. He knows his way around the kitchen because he does that as his regular job, works in that industry. And he did an outstanding job. But then he got the word yesterday that his folks need him home for some family issues. So he's leaving us tomorrow morning. Yeah, that was really abrupt. He packed all day yesterday. Today he came over and milked one last time. And then tomorrow morning he splits for a 13-hour trip down to North Carolina. So we're farewelling him tonight. I don't want to take too much time, but actually they're all out at the campfire right now. And if I'm not there, that doesn't bother them because they have their young adult talk going on, and I can hear them laughing out there and having a good time. But the kid really had a great time with us, learned a lot, and just threw himself right into it. I really appreciate the job that he did. So that's a blow because we have a lot of work lined up for the summer, and there's not much we can do about it. My youngest daughter is going to be 19, graduating high school, and so we don't see a lot of her now. She's got a job in town, which I think is really good. She's always worked here, and I want her to get out and work someplace else. So that's good. And I don't think I can haul her back. So it's going to put a lot of work on me, Jill, and the two boys. So yeah, pray for us too. Yeah, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. Yeah, so we got done with Tribe Day Sunday. Monday we got up and it was raining really hard. So we just sat out here on the porch and waited till it stopped about 10 o'clock. And then got chores done, milked, fed, all the things that we have to do. And then kind of just, why don't you guys go ride your motorcycles or something? And Jill did what she wanted to do, read and slept. Yesterday afternoon at 4:30, I laid down and I was out like a light until 6, hour and a half nap. Got up at 6 o'clock, which, well rested, and have a quick cup of coffee. And then I went out and I was out until dark, and till after dark, and then came in and, did what I had to do, wound up going to bed and slept like a baby until this morning. So Tribe Day is a rigorous day. And one of the things that I realized this weekend, all right, this was our 4th year doing this. Last year was the 3rd year, and we did more advertising about it. We wanted to bring more people in, and we realized that wasn't really all that wise, because we had people coming and going. Not everybody showed up on time for the briefing about what we're doing. And so you had people just float in, and they're like, oh, a farm, here we are. They didn't know us. We didn't know them. There was kids wandering around, kids on the hay pile, kids in with the bull, kids going here and there and everywhere. And it was extremely disorganized. And so we decided that we were going to pare it down. We want to keep it at a small group. And so there was probably 50 adults and 50 kids. So that was about right. We started off Friday. We had Campfire Friday night, which was outstanding. And everybody, turned in relatively early. I'd say like before 11. And then we started off bright and early Saturday morning. A couple of people joined us at the pool and swam and all that stuff bright and early. And then we started right in, opened up the cafe, bacon and eggs, everything that you'd want. And our first breakout session was 9:30. And I had one and Craig Schaff had one. We were opposite each other, which was okay. I did a biochar and he did a soils. Craig Schaff is outstanding when it comes to soils. And occasionally he does a few rabbit trails with very interesting stuff. And then Aaron Esch did post and beam construction. And he started off in our barn. And he related things that he knows about barn construction. Our barn was built in 1900. And a lot of thought went into that. It wasn't just like a building that they threw up. It's made to ventilate itself. And very, very interesting. And let's see, Andrew Cross was with us. He did, I think he must have done something with propagating trees. That's his specialty. Who else did we have? We had Dave Allen, and he did first aid, homestead first aid, some of the likely injuries that we see on homesteads. He's been homesteading for 10 years now, so he's seen a lot of it, got a lot of background in, battlefield. He's Army. I don't hold it against him. So very knowledgeable and very entertaining guy too, very entertaining. He was a cop for a while. And then we kind of slid into, I hope I'm not leaving anybody out. But that wasn't really what I was doing. I wasn't the one organizing the speakers. I was just one of the speakers. And then I would kind of cruise around and talk to people and put out spot fires here and there and give the kids rides in the Jeep and all that stuff. So I think that's about it. And then we have kind of a big lunch on Saturday. Um, I roasted a pig off, and I just ate a lot of it just now for dinner because there was plenty left over. And we had coleslaw and chips and all the stuff that you can have. Oh, French fries made in Mangalitsa lard. Big, big hit. Everybody loves them. And then Saturday night campfire again, so everybody's having fun, swimming in the pool, sitting around the campfire, eating, doing whatever they want to do. And so just had a really, really nice time. We had a special visitor. Her name is Ashley Armstrong, and she is the head CEO, I guess you'd call it, of Nourish Co-op. And that's that co-op that most recently has had problems with MDARD. MDARD is Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. MDARD. Isn't that nice? So she was here, and when she showed up, I think about 8 o'clock, by the time she hit the campfire, she just started to field questions from all the people that were there. And I think there was probably 20 people at the campfire, 20 adults. And that went until probably, I don't know, 10:30. And then a lot of people started heading off to bed. And then Sunday, I was the last one to leave the campfire because I had to make sure it was out and everything. And then Sunday, we have skills sharing day. So you can sign up if you have a skill that you'd like to demonstrate, and people can waltz in and they can watch it. But there might be a skill here and a skill here and a skill here. So you can kind of move around if you want. And it's a lot looser than Saturday. And then we had what we called raw milk roundtable. So that was good, but I looking back on it, I really wish that it hadn't been a roundtable. I wish it was just a raw milk briefing, because I had very important things to pass on, and we wound up just fielding a pile of questions, and some people just wanted to talk about their thing, and it got really, really convoluted. But after that was over, people broke off into small groups and hammered out, what they needed to know. And the focus of this was Nourish Co-op and what do we do? What are we going to do? And so I think we came up with a pretty good plan. And one of the guys in the group, new guy, actually, I met him at the Lake Odessa Farm Conference. His name is J.D. Flood, Marine type, real nice guy. And he's going to put together a kind of a flow chart. If this happens, you do this. If this happens, you do this. But we did come up with some absolute to-dos, like right now. Do these now. If you are a farm, a small farm like us, there are things you can do preemptively right now. Like you could do this tonight. You can do it via email, or you can do it via registered mail. I recommend registered mail. And your mail is going to MDARD director. His name is Tim something or other. What is his name? I'll help you out on this, because I'm prompting you to do this. I really want you to do this. Of course, any of you can Google MDARD director, MDARD the director. His name is Tim Boring, Boring. So you send a registered letter to Tim Boring. He's the director of the people that work at the MDARD, at the Department of Agriculture. So he directs them, and you inform him. It's a notice of trespass. You're just telling him you're not welcome on my property. He gets a copy of it. You have a copy of it. And then if they were to show up on your property, like they did with Hidden Creek and Miller Farm, just to probe us, just to see what we're going to do. If they were to do that, then you don't talk to them at all. If you are an unlicensed farm, you have no agreement with them, so they have no right to be on your farm. And if you've trespassed them prior to that encounter, then all you do is say, wait right there, and you dial 911. That's it. 911 dispatcher may help you. And then you say, I have trespassers on my property right now, and I want this documented. I will hold them for one of your officers. Thank you very much. My name is this, and I live at this. Now, what you've done is you have started a paper trail, right? And if you have preemptively trespassed them and they come anyway, now we're in criminal territory. Not you, them. They're in criminal territory. So they won't do it. They will not do it. It will never happen. So long as you send that preemptive letter as a notice of trespass and put it in your own words. Just say, Tim, I don't want you or any of your people on my property. Comprende? Capiche? Understand? And then sign your name. And that's it. And when you sign your name, you could even put in your little block there, you could put he, him, and you could put the anyone can farm tribe if you want, anything you want. But I believe if they were to get 50 letters like that, those are 50 farms that they can't visit. That was the message that I wanted to get across on Sunday, and I wasn't able to do it. There was some disruptions in the room, and it kind of threw me off. But we're going to make the best of it, and we're going to get this message out via video and on this platform, on the Wednesday night platform. And then I'm going to be asking you, once you have accomplished your letter, that you inform everybody in your circle to do the same thing. You ask them to do the same thing. Well, what this does, you're just engaging the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. You're engaging it. You have the right to your private property. Nobody can come on your private property, unless they have an invitation from you or a warrant signed by a judge. They're not going to get a warrant, not going to happen, because you're not doing anything criminal, right? Not following MDARD's rules is not criminal. It's like, if you won't put a mask on going into Walmart, you can't be arrested for that. It's just a rule, and you don't have to do it. They have the option of doing what, though? They can trespass you. That means they can say, you got to get out. If you don't get out, then they make a 911 call. Paperwork is done. They have the option of pressing it to a criminal level. As far as I know, they didn't do it. They just made a notice of trespass, and then you can't go in there anymore, right? So that's what we've learned. If you plan on doing business with MDARD, then don't do it. But if you never want to see their raggedy faces on your property, then do it. And it will send a mighty message that you're not welcome here. You are not welcome here. We don't want to have anything to do with you. They don't do us any good. So why would you allow them to come? Now, this tactic would work with anybody you want. You could do it to religious groups. You can do it to any of the departments. And this all has to do with contract law. All right. So I'm going to leave that alone right there. Sunday we broke into smaller groups, and we just had a really good time hashing it out and working on some scenarios, and we came up with some really, really good ideas. And that's what leads me to tonight's conversation is community, right? Community. So there's something about community that doesn't exist in bureaucracy. So you could have community over here and then bureaucracy over here, and they're almost diametrically opposed, right? In a bureaucracy like the Department of Agriculture, you have one guy that's in charge, and that would be like Tim Boring. He is the director of all the people who work under him for that department. So he directs them. He directs them, right? He's not my director. He doesn't get to tell me anything, except Merry Christmas. He gets to tell me that. That's it. He doesn't get to, has no authority over me just because it's Department of Agriculture and I'm involved in an agricultural process. That doesn't mean they have the right to tell me what to do unless I get into some sort of contract with them. And I tell you over and over, do not get in a contract with these people. It will do you no good. A contract is a licensing agreement. So that's what happened to Ashley Armstrong at Nourish Co-op was they entered into a warehouse licensing agreement, which basically gave the Department of Agriculture access to their property 24/7. With in lieu of that, without that, they have no access to her property unless she says, yeah, come on up the driveway, or they have a warrant signed by a judge. But a search warrant requires criminal activity or suspect criminal activity. And nothing that we're doing on the farm is criminal, should not be. There should be no criminal activity at all. Because you won't comply with their rules, that's not criminal. It's not criminal. You're just in violation of their rules. But if you're not playing their game, if you're not into their contract, they don't have any authority to tell you what to do. So the easiest thing to do is never get in a contract with them, never get a warehouse license or anything like that. And you might say, well, I gotta have a warehouse license to go to the farmer's market. Oh, well, if the farmer's market is that important to you that you'll give up your Fourth Amendment to these weenies, and just on principle alone, people have given their lives for that Fourth Amendment, and you're just going to hand it over and pay for it so you can go to a damn farmer's market? Come on, figure a way around it. Figure a way around it. I've always said farmers markets are not that productive because you spend so much time going and coming, setting up and breaking down, bring a lot of stuff home. Plus, there's a lot of competition at the farmers market. It just doesn't make sense to me. Some people maybe do good with it, and if that's what you want to do, fine, do what you want. I don't care. If you do what you want, if you don't mind being visited by these by these people. And when they are visiting with you, as Ashley found out, they actually have the final say. So in her case, they said, we don't like this, this, and this. Therefore, we are condemning all of this product totaling $90,000, $92,000. So do you really want to do business with an outfit like that? Do you really want to do business with those schmucks? I don't think so. I think you need your head examined if you do. Now, in Ashley's case, she didn't know. She was told she had to. And it really took some doing and quite a few people to convince her that you don't have to do this. It's voluntary. So this is where we get into the community aspect. As I've said, you have bureaucracy on one side, community on the other. People who work for the bureaucracy, many times, they are just there for the paycheck. They're not dedicated to the mission of that bureaucracy. Okay. They're not dedicated to it. They don't really believe in it. It's just a job. They'll say, hey, I'm just doing my job, right? I got to get my paycheck because I got a mortgage and I got a car payment and all this. I'm just doing my job. Do you believe in what you're doing? No, I don't believe it, but it's my job. I do what I'm told. Okay. I've got student loans to pay off at MSU. Right. So it's kind of a racket. It really is kind of a racket. In my opinion. And I guess you'll throw that in because somebody will take that sound bite and say, he says it's a racket. Whatever. But on the other hand, you have community. You have all these people that came to our farm. They are all independent families, and they are all doing their own thing, but they've all broken from that for the weekend to come together. Now, you ask yourself the question, why would these people do this? Why would, like, the Kelly family, Crunchy Mama, you guys have seen him on here. That's an impressive operation. They're impressive people. Powerful people. Why would they come all the way from Texas up to Michigan just to hang around on some farm and talk about farm things? Got to really ask yourself the question, why? What is it about this? And there are many other families that we've known for quite a while that come back and come back and come back, and they are doing well, right? But they're independent families, and when they are sitting at the campfire or at the picnic table, we're eating or they're teaching a class or something like that, not one of these families is compromised. None of them have to say or not say something. It's like, if you work for the bureaucracy, MDARD, it's one of many bureaucracies, you can't go around saying, that Tim Boring, I think he wears a toupee. You can't go around saying that because you work for the guy. He's your director. He can direct you right out the door. If you are asked to do something, you get to your office in the morning and you get an email that says, we want you and you and you, three of you, to go to Hidden Creek Farm. Here's what you're going to do. Get out of the car, spray the tires down, go up to these people and kind of convince them that they need to be in a licensing agreement with us. Those people didn't do that of their own volition. They were told to do. They were ordered to do that. They work for MDARD. They were told to do it. So by that very nature, they are compromised. We've got all the names of the inspectors that went on these farms. They were not trespassing, right? They made an initial visit, just like a religious group could do, or the Fuller Brush Man, or anybody, wheel in the driveway. Hi, how you doing? And then engage in a conversation, and then say, would you mind if we came in and looked around? They can do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong. You're dumb if you let them. You're dumb if you answer even one question. And they may even ask you a question where you could answer in the negative. Do you make dog treats here? And you say, well, no. What do you got going now? What has just transpired? Question, answer. What is that? That's a conversation. So when they write up their little report, entered the property, engaged in conversation with the landowner, and because they have to report back to their boss. How'd that go when you went to Hidden Creek Farm? And I want it in writing, right? So they have to write that. But so you're smart if they are to come on you and you haven't written your letter yet. You just say, and then point to the road, get off. Because there's nothing in the conversation with them that's going to do you any good, really. You don't have to believe me if you don't want to. Go ahead, get in a conversation with them, buy a license from them, see how it works out. I've been there. Many people have been there. Do it if you want to. You can always pull out of the contract. You can always do it. That's what Ashley's going to be doing here pretty quick. All she's going to do is send them a letter saying we no longer have a contract. So you no longer have access to my property. That's the end of the story right there. She presses on with her business, operating privately. And she's not answering to this state agency, not one little bit. Not one little bit. She doesn't say one word to them. As a matter of fact, she is now asking the questions. She's got a lot of questions to ask them. And when they come knocking on your door asking for questions, you can give them the silent treatment, not talking to you. But can government do that to you? Nope. We have this little thing called the Freedom of Information Act of 1974. And that means that government people and government contractors cannot operate in secrecy. Cannot. So all of their emails, everything has to be done in the open. Right? Even their phone calls, but that gets a little harder to track down. But emails for sure. Everything's done via email nowadays. And the reason that happens that way is because, let's say Tim Boring wants Inspector A, B, and C to go to Hidden Creek Farm, and he sends it down through the chain of command, his chain of command, what he wants done. Oh, fireworks going off. Boy, that's loud. Sounds more like the M1 going off. So he sends it down through the chain of command via email. Then there is accountability coming down the chain. And if someone at some level says, well, I don't think this is a good idea, there is a paper trail that we can refer back to if disciplinary actions need to happen within the organization, right? And that's why it's done that way. So as citizens, and we are the masters, they are the servants, we can request access to their database, and we can direct them to do a word search, and any email that has to do with that, they have to hand it over to us. Now, they like to play games, and they say, well, that's going to cost you. And they like to really push it, but really under the law, they have to provide that for you free of charge, so long as you can prove that you're going to be using it in a court of law. So, like, their way of winnowing it out is they say, yeah, we got it. It's going to cost you $3,000. And you say, no, it's free because I'm taking your ass to court. And then they know that, we're going to be taken to court. So that is coming. All that is coming. We're going to find out who was directing who to do what. And we're going to start treating them like the servants they are. And we're also going to trespass them so they can't come on our property anymore. This is how you put an end to this baloney. You put an end to it. It scares people when you have black cars pull up on your property, and then these people get out and start asking questions with their little ID cards and their clipboards. Stay off. Go find something to do. Go dust, but stay off our property. And we have an absolute right to that per the Fourth Amendment. And we just need to change the paradigm, how people view government. A lot of times people are afraid of government, and you really shouldn't be. You really shouldn't be. They are the servants. They're public servants. They like to be called officials, right? But they're actually public servants. And the structure that they exist in, if you have one of these public servants and you don't feel as though their behavior is becoming of the department that they work for, like, we're the owners of that. We decide what is becoming behavior of our employees. And if their behavior is unbecoming, you find their boss and you make a complaint in writing And I can guarantee you that complaint will wind up in the personal information file of that individual. PIF, it's called, personal information file. And then every year when they come up for their yearly review, somebody else is going to be looking at, whoa, you got a complaint here, says that you dropped the F-bomb with these people. This one says that you stated, I'm just doing my job. This one stated that I will talk to you about this on off company time. This one stated that you had a stinking attitude. So that doesn't help them in their employment quest, right? So, but we need to be willing to do that if we want to train them to be good public servants and be obedient to the contract. The contract. I like to refer to it as the contract. Now, what contract is that? That's the U.S. Constitution. They have to take an oath to that Constitution or the constitutional rights of the constituency. That's us, the masters, and they have to perform properly. So anyway, we're gonna get into this more, but I really want to talk about the community as opposed to the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is a very cumbersome thing. The community, we can make a decision on the spot as a group. You have different family members, the heads of families sitting at the campfire, and somebody will come up with a good idea. Hey, you know what we ought to do? We ought to do, and we can say, hey, you know, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Let's do it next weekend, or if we're going to have like a letter writing campaign, something like that, we can decide to do that on the spot, implement it, make it happen. Conversely, if an idea is put forward and it's not a good idea, well, it just doesn't go anywhere. And, thanks for the input, but where if Tim Boring gets a bee in his bonnet about something, or let's say somebody from up the chain of command at the federal level says, we want you to do this, and Tim is compromised to the point where he's not going to do what is best for the citizenry, but he's going to do what he is told by his upline, maybe at the FDA or the USDA. Because after all, what does a bureaucrat like Tim Boring want? He wants to move from the director's position here in Michigan to a position in Washington, most likely, and climb that chain of command. That is what bureaucrats do. They don't produce anything, right? They don't provide any service at all. They just work within their organization to get to the next position, right? So, and you can't blame them. I make fun of them, call them parasites all the time, because they are, but they got crummy lives. They're not really working towards anything of substance. It won't be like, at the end of their 20 years of service to MDARD, they'll get a plaque that they're going to just look at that and say, whoa, those were good days. Oh man, I'm so glad to have been a MDARD. That's a lot of shooting going on out there. I wonder if you guys can hear that. Okay, but within the community, we start off as like maybe two families, and in reality, Tribe Day started with just two families. It was us and the Stumpos came to the house for something, and they came up here, and it was like lunchtime, so we were having lunch. We do that. If you show up here at lunchtime, we feed you. If we like you. If we don't like you, we just say, there's a McDonald's up on the interstate. So we were eating and just yucking it up and stuff. And Amy came up with this idea of Tribe Day and wanted to kind of fashion it like like a church camp type thing, where people could camp out and spend time fellowshipping together. Now, what is that fellowshipping thing all about? What is that about? In order for you to have an effective community of people, there has to be trust, right? Within a bureaucracy, there's no trust. I mean, you don't trust anybody. Like, you're out for yourself. I don't know about this. Like, the military is not really like that, because we're dealing with a mission. We actually do something, but it's my job to complete the mission. The bureaucrats don't really ever get anything really done. It's just kind of a grind, a regulatory grind day to day, and whoever pulls their chain, they kind of work for. So I've never really worked within a bureaucracy, but I've had them near me, and I've watched them operate. In the community, there is the trust level. So somebody might come out with an idea that they have, but they'll only share that idea because they trust the people that they're sharing it with, because sometimes your ideas are kind of crazy. What's fun about coming together with your friends like this weekend is you're vulnerable. Like, you might start sharing something that you realize that, hey, maybe I shouldn't say this. I'm with friends. What the heck? I'll go ahead and say it, Nobody's really climbing for position at Tribe Day. No one is, because there's no position to climb to. So if somebody is asked their opinion on something, they're not going to give the company line. They're going to speak from the heart. They're going to say what they think about it. And that creates a dynamic where you start to see things that you never would have saw before. If within the bureaucracy, if Boring Tim gets an idea, that's all anybody ever sees. Let's just do what Tim wants us to do, because every other puke in the bureaucracy is trying to climb to the next level. If he's got 10 guys that work directly beneath him, they all want his position, right? So do you think they're going to say, when Tim comes up with a good idea to do some bird flu biosecurity measures, do you think they're going to say, I don't think that's a good idea, Tim? Do you think they'll do that? No, because Tim wants people that are going to say, that's a good idea, and I will do what you want. Is everything okay, sir? Yeah, I'll do it. That's how you climb that chain of command. That is how it works. You do what you are told, right? And then that person will get a favorable report in their PIF, personal information file, and then they get their yearly performance report. This guy is stellar. Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, but that's not how it works in the community. Sometimes you can make statements that people will say, well, I don't know, we're not going to go with, I don't, but you don't lose ground. They still love you anyway, unless it takes time to really irritate people in the community. And then they start when you come to the campfire, they move a couple seats away from you. They don't want you to start talking to them and running your mouth and never shutting up. They'll move away from you. They'll just move from you. And or maybe somebody will lovingly say, you need to shut the hell up, something like that. Maybe lovingly will tell you to shut the hell up. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe you need to have enough, smarts to realize, how come everybody moves away from me? Nobody wants me to just lecture them for hours on end. Wonder what's wrong with that. And I'm this way here because it's just me talking. But when I'm at the campfire with a bunch of people, I am more interested in hearing what they have to say. And you'd be surprised how little I say and how much I listen. You'd be surprised. Maybe you wouldn't. We don't have too much conversation going on here, just Keith. And my screen has changed. I don't have a counter on here anymore. Is anybody else here? Can somebody give me a little thumbs up or something? I don't have a counter here. It doesn't tell me if there are people listening or not. I might just be talking to the ether. I am live. Is anybody else on here? Wouldn't that be something? I've been yakking all this time. All right. Well, I'll continue to yak, I guess. My microphone's on. Keith said I'm going to sleep, so I was boring him. Okay, but what comes from community? All right, Catherine Pirtle is here. Very good. Thank you, Lassie. Lassie, thank you. What comes from community? What comes from community? Like, do you think in a bureaucracy, people are going to take the director aside and say, hey, let me talk to you. I want to talk to you. Nope, that doesn't happen. Okay, Ben Timberfalling is here. But in a bureaucracy, that does, because but in a community, it does. That does happen because people are concerned with the integrity of the community. The community serves them. They're willing to serve the community. So they have a stake in it. Nobody's getting a paycheck out of it. They're just at a place where they can come together. And as time goes by, there is more and more trust. There is more willingness on persons on their part to be counseled or to counsel, for the betterment of the mission. And what is the mission of community? It's, I don't know, to enhance our lives together. It's to share information about how to grow food, how to operate a homestead, how to operate children on the homestead, how to motivate them. It's for us to get motivated. Like Keith, he got motivated to the point where he was working on the roof of his shop. He was that motivated and then wound up falling off. Okay, the shooting stopped. And then good ideas come out of it. Strength comes out of it. Courage comes out of it. Now, we shared quite a bit of information about this bureaucracy that we keep talking about and their oppressive nature and who they really are. Like, we talked about the individuals, who they really are. And they are very weak. It's a very weak organization. I've told you before, the Department of Ag is like a dumping ground for the freaks and geeks, that make it through college and have to have a job. Listening contently, Pat H. Pat H, that looks new. Just me? Okay, so some people are here. Isn't that strange that the counter went away? It used to say, but I never really believed it because it would say like there's 12 people listening. It just didn't seem like 12 people would come back week after week. I don't know. I think we're going to find out someday that was a way that they manipulate when you're putting a message out and they don't like the message. They can just say, well, nobody's listening to you. And it's just like my sisters would say, nobody cares what you think, Mark. Nobody cares. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. So this weekend, I believe if our coming together and our building community like this is a ball game, like a football game, we move the ball down the field quite a bit. I don't know as we get to the end zone and say, oh, this is good enough, because in my way of thinking, we can always do better. Always do better. There's always things we can improve. However, I hate to say but, so I'll use the word however. There were things last year that weren't as good as they could be, and we improved on them this year. And next year, we will have things that this year there was some sticking points, and we're going to prevent that from happening. We will prevent that from happening next year. Nothing big. Like there was no girl fights or anything. There was no clothes getting ripped off and hair getting pulled. There was nothing like that. We don't really want drinking going on at these meetings, because people kind of drift off when that happens. And then the next year it's like, well, I want to bring what I like to drink. And before you know it, there's liquor bottles on the table and all kinds of stuff. And we do not want that. And I'm not a prude by any means. It's just that this is a community building exercise, and we need people to have their heads in the game, completely in the game. And it's just, I know what it's like to drink. So when you start drinking, it's like you usually sink to the lowest common denominator, and nothing really gets done. So we've said the last couple of years, people have kind of brought stuff to the campfire, and I've said, yeah, I just prefer you don't. If you want to stay with the campground, and have a smaller little group and have a campfire over there where you drink, fine. But at the main house where I'm going to be, my wife's going to be, and we've got a cadre of people at this point. I would prefer that not go on. I'd rather keep our heads in the game and treat this as important business as it is. The way we conduct our lives on a daily basis, that's important business. And if I get sloshed, I've seen it too much. Don't need to see it anymore. So we kind of put a kibosh on that. We had to do that last couple of years, and people just show up at the campfire and like bring a bottle that they want to pass around. I know we don't have a bunch of prudes by any means, but yeah. So that has been something that I've held pretty tightly onto, and I'm going to continue to hold on to that. If I go over to the campground and a guy's sitting there by himself or with his wife or something, and he's drinking a Bud Light, I ain't going to say anything, but he's not creating a problem, so that there's not a problem, right? But I don't want anybody bringing a keg over to the main house and saying, come on, kids, I had my first beer when I was 10. Have one. So I don't want that going on. But anyway, as far as the community building, we moved it down the field. We also shared a lot of information with people on how to do things, how to buy land, how to finance, how to make biochar, how to increase your soil productivity, and livestock production, butchering, all kinds of things. And then there was the cohesion that comes from people having fun. If it wasn't fun, I don't think I'd want to do it. Like if my main thing was, well, I don't have fun, it sucks, but I've got to do it to create community. If there's no fun, it almost seems like you don't really have community. But I had fun Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Monday, I had fun. We had a couple of stragglers hanging around here still Monday. So I still had fun. And then when everybody left, I sat and I had more fun. Right? So that's my my rendition of what we had go on this weekend. And it gives us something to think about for next year. And Jill and I are the ultimate arbiters of how it's going to go next year, what we're going to do. But at this point right here, the number of people that we had and the way we operated was very good. And I would think that we would do it again next year. So that's it. That's it. Is there any questions for me? And can anybody else see on a view counter how many people are in? I'm just curious what it's saying. So you're used to seeing the board behind me, but we had to move it down to the shop to put the menu on it. And Amy Kelly did that. And her writing is so nice. Her penmanship is so great that I'm going to put it back up here with the menu on there. 7, huh? 7 people. Could that be? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the narcissist in me that says there must be more than 7. I don't know. But then on the replay, people listen to it tomorrow, and it usually gets up around 300, which is a lot of people when you think about it. But I see some channels and they're routinely getting 30,000 views. That's never been me. I thought just for fun, I would kind of comment on what's going on in the country. And it's our turn, I guess, to be happy. So President Trump got clipped in the ear with a 5.56 round. I've heard varying accounts on how many rounds were actually fired. I don't know. The whole thing seems, it's hard to sort out because I know how security works, and just some dude on a rooftop that was well within the view, it just seems fishy. I don't know. I don't know what to say about the whole thing. But about the only thing that makes sense to me, right, is when we go back to 17, 18, 19, that time frame, and we were listening to Q was make drops, a couple drops a week. They were just sometimes a sentence, sometimes a paragraph. Some of it made no sense. Most of it made no sense because it wasn't for me. But there was some stuff that did make sense. And one of the things that was constantly being said was, you're watching a movie. And so if something like that happened in a movie that you were watching, even if it was a great movie, that happens all the time, especially when you're watching a movie like a war movie with a bunch of veterans. They'll be like, hey, that could never happen. They would never do that. That violates, right? So in this case, I was sitting with veterans at the fire Sunday morning. And this one guy who's Army, not Dave Allen, another Dave, a new guy. And he was saying security lines would never allow anything like that. There's no way that can happen. There's no way that can happen. And it sounded very much like veterans watching a war movie, criticizing a script, basically a script. Well, it's in the script, so live with it, GI, because that's what's in the script. And it seems to me that's what's in the script, right? Here's a guy, climbs up on a roof, gets off a couple rounds. I don't know if he was supposed to hit. You see, I don't know. It's a script. It seems that's what it seems like to me, because it wasn't a hard shot. It's 140 yards. It was, but whatever. And varying reports on how many rounds the guy got off. And there's all kinds of experts coming out saying, oh, well, the wind was going, and the Coriolis effect and all this stuff. And I can't really even bother to listen to it because just what I know of it makes no sense. No sense at all, right? How some dude could get to within 120 yards of one of the most well-known controversial figures on the planet, on this flat earth of ours. It's just impossible. There's so many levels of security, and then just the behavior of the Secret Service people. There was three babes in front there, and just watching them, it's like, where did they get them? They're not Secret Service agents. That's not the way those people handle themselves. They would never use a a slight female because Secret Service agents become barriers, bullet catchers, and they shield El Presidente with their bodies, and they've got plate carriers in back and probably a plate carrier in the front. So those little girls didn't have plates on, and if they did, the plates would be tiny. So that just doesn't make any sense at all. And then it's like, well, yeah, but the director of the Secret Service, well, she's a Biden appointee, so I don't know if he's got that kind of authority down that far down the chain of command. Like, I want this guy. Now, I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but a lot of it doesn't make sense. So did the JFK assassination make sense at the time? It did, because we didn't have the internet then. You couldn't say, well, I'm going to research this tonight and sit on your phone and find out all kinds of information, all kinds. And some of the stuff diametrically opposes, it's diametrically opposed. You've got people saying it was all a setup. None of it was real. You've got people saying that Trump was just a couple millimeters from meeting his maker, and and everything in between. And really, I can't say at this point, even with the background that I have, I can't make sense of it. All I know is that, well, I'm not going to go into it. I'm just not going to go into it. It doesn't make any sense. But still, the narrative that's going out there, like if you watch Megyn Kelly, Bill O'Reilly, MSNBC, CNN, all those guys, the big ones, they're all saying the same thing. Yes, there was an assassination attempt. And yes, the president's ear was hit. They don't bother going into, it didn't happen. It's all made up. They don't go into that. So the narrative has been set. Same as, remember, the narrative for the Wu flu. It's been set. It was set. And we could sit here all day long and say, this is baloney. This isn't really happening. That doesn't make any difference. The narrative's been set. And even now, when people talk about the Wu flu, they will still talk about it as if they're required to spout the company line. So that's how you know they're compromised. Same thing with 9/11. They still talk about Osama bin Laden did it, right? They still do that, and I reckon that there's other things in our history, could be Pearl Harbor, that is like, that never really made a lot of sense to me. It really made very little sense how that much equipment could travel across the Pacific Ocean and not somebody say, hey, there's 350 ships headed your way and they're loaded with war-making materials. It's a long trip and nobody's seen them. And the radar. we had over the horizon, well, if you believe in horizons, but we had radar at that time, and it was very good. Very good. And they watched the movies. It was like, oh, there's two guys, they're watching the radar, and it's like, hey, let's go have a smoke. And that's when the Japanese come in. There's not a lot of redundancy in that operation, So I have questions about that, but I mean, the narrative is the narrative, and that's just how it's going to be. I'm glad that we don't have to live in that type of thing. I'm not compromised, so I don't have to say, oh, the bird flu, it's coming, baby. We need to be, I can look at it I can be individually critical of it. And with my community, I can say, no, I don't trust these guys. Maybe the bird flu is true, but I don't trust these guys. There is no trust between me and the Department of Agriculture. Zero. And I think that if you do trust them, you just haven't been doing business with them long enough. That's all. It's just you're trusting out of ignorance because you haven't been with them long enough. They're a bureaucracy. bureaucracy, and they're going to do what is best for them, not you. Okay, so we got a little input here. Ben Timberfalling kind of looked like some crisis actors and a lot of fishy things going on. You think? Those three babes, that one that couldn't holster a weapon? Wow. You can't tell me she was just a DEI hire. I don't know. And then the other two, the one in the middle, kept flipping her ponytail from side to side. Here, I'm looking. I'm scanning the horizon. I'm looking. And then the other one, she had to get those sunglasses on, baby. It just looked so phony. There's a gal that I started listening to when the whole Fannie Willis thing was going on. For some reason, that caught my attention because Fannie Willis was such a disaster. But it was fun to watch what a disaster she was for whatever reason, and it kept showing up on my feed. And there was this gal that came on, black chick. Her name is Melanie King. And she seems like a very wise person. She's young, but she seems very wise. She's able to look at a situation and kind of pick it apart. She's a bit of an inner city type person, Washington, D.C. I think her dad worked for, he worked in the government and her mom worked in the government too, whatever. But I like her, and she picked the whole thing apart, and it was pretty interesting the way she did it. I love her commentary. All right. Pat H says, I had to search your channel to find your live stream. YouTube will not show your videos on recommended screen, even though I try to watch every week. I guess they don't like me. I don't know. Yeah. That is a consistent theme. That's a consistent theme with my message. And I can tell you this, and since you brought it up, Pat, I will tell you this. My message is a message of solution, right? I just gave you a solution to these people coming on your farm, how to prevent that. I just gave it to you earlier in the show. I told you how to do it. A letter of trespass, registered letter. Now you have a receipt of it. They show up. It's a 911 call. They know that. They know once that letter is in hand, you have it, and you make a 911 call, you're handing it to the patrolman and saying, I trespassed them 3 months ago, and here they are. And the patrolman's going to be like, yeah, you did. Okay, what do you want us to do? I want it pressed to the hilt. So that means he's going to do a report, and the report's going to go through the chief of police or the sheriff and going to wind up on the prosecutor's desk. And it's going to have a little note on it. Bakers want this pressed right to the hilt. And the prosecutor might be like, who do these assholes think they are? Okay, I'll do it. And then they're going to get summoned into court. But either way, there's going to be paperwork generated that is going to wind up in their personal information file. They ain't going to like it, right? So I just gave you a solution. I just gave you the solution. That is it. And that is the solution per the representative republic that we live in that is governed by a constitution. And oh, by the way, you have people in the mainstream media telling you every day that the Constitution is old and outdated and written by old white guys. And it enabled slavery even. They'll tell you that. Not true. But if you want to know that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, if you want to know that, just use your head. What am I doing right now? I'm slamming high-ranking government officials. I'm telling you that they're frauds. You think they like that? But what can they do about it? Nothing. You know why? Because I have the right to free speech guaranteed to me through the First Amendment. They'd have been after me a long time ago. They'd have shut me up a long time ago, but they can't. But they can on a platform like this. And it's their platform. So I'm not going to complain. I mean, it's going to fall on deaf ears. It's sort of like my campfire is my campfire, and I can say whether you can drink booze at my campfire. It's not public. It's private. right? So my message is a message of solution, and that's not a message that the machine wants in the hands of the public. They don't want that. They want to take every solution they can from you so that you're just, go to work, get the six pack on the way home, watch Dancing with the Stars, go to bed, do it all over again, do it all over again, do it all. They don't want you building your own little empire. And I don't use empire as a dirty word. I am building an empire. I don't have a problem with that. I provide jobs for people. I'm gaining property. There's more work here than I can do. And so I have to employ people to do it. And we're turning out really good products. We're not parasites. I don't parasite off of anybody. The government employees, the public servants, they do. They act like parasites because they don't actually serve us. Public servants, when's the last time they actually served you? They've got themselves to a place where they want to tell you what you got to do. Completely incorrect. But bad on you if you listen to them. The little Walmart greeter guy, he's going to tell you put a face mask on. But shame on you if you do it. Shame on you. But everything is an offer. Everything is voluntary. You don't have to do what these wieners tell you to do. You don't have to be in a licensing agreement with them. You're kind of dumb if you do. But if you don't believe me, go ahead and do it. Get every license they got. You can even put it on your business card. Licensed. Ooh, licensed with the state of Michigan. The professionals at the Department of Agriculture. Makes me chuckle. And if the Constitution wasn't valid, how come so many Americans are armed? I mean, anybody who wants to be armed can be armed. And it's not just you can get yourself a bolt action 22. You can get anything you want. If you get a class 3, it's a license. Yeah. I don't think it's necessary, but if you want to, you can get a machine gun if you want. I don't want one. I don't want the burden of keeping a machine gun around, but if you want to, you can. You can get you a 50 cal machine gun if you want to. You can. Kind of a burden to keep that thing around, but I mean, for the average guy, you can be heavily armed with. You can get you an AR-15. That is a superb weapon. You can get them for. I've seen them on the shelf at Ebel's for $500. They may not be like day-night shooters. Like you can't shoot them all day and all night like a good Colt or DPMS battle rifle, but they'll shoot a lot and they'll relatively effective. They'll feed good. They're accurate. That's because of the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The rights of the citizens to own and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. Because you know that if they could have taken your guns away, they'd have had them long time ago. Long time ago. Third Amendment, that they can't put soldiers in your home. Big deal. Not so much now, but in the days when the Constitution was written, it was a big deal because they were billeting redcoats in the colonists' homes. You had billeting means that you had to feed them, do their laundry, and provide them a bed to sleep in. A room, not just a bed, a room with a bed. So that is a little cumbersome, They can't do that. That can't happen anymore. Fourth Amendment is you are safe on your private property. It is actually an expression of private property. Like, this is mine. You cannot come on here unless I invite you or you have a warrant. And warrants are not real easy to come by. contrary to popular opinion, unless you break a law. And I'm glad for that. I'm glad we are a land of laws, because I wouldn't like it if my neighbor was some kids and, making kid soup next door. And he, just because it's private property, he couldn't do that. He cannot do anything illegal there. He has to stay within the law. And that's good, because most of us stay within the law anyway. Most of us, the overwhelming majority, Americans are ferocious people, but they are good people. And you can't say that. You go down to South America, there's a lot of not good people that will sell you out for a dime, really. Pat H says, okay, wait a minute. I saw something that looked kind of interesting. Okay. Ben Timber Falling. I'm starting my search for property around Muskegon, Michigan this year. The way housing prices are, I'm looking at starter homes, but got big dreams to get some acreage and start farming. Yeah, these days you're going to have to be creative. The old paradigm, it looks like it's gone away. It looks like it's gone away. Maybe it's just temporary, but like, I know a guy really well that got their piece of land, and then he just built a building on it. He built a pole barn, and then he started to finish it off inside. Before that, he was living in a yurt on that piece of property. I know this guy real well. And he just did it. Didn't ask for permission or anything. But in the time that's gone by that he's done this, he saved a tremendous amount of money. Because if he had asked permission from some township wiener, they'd have said, we have to check. We have to check with the county. And at the county, they're going to say, no, you live in a house like everybody else. And then they get back to him, well, the county says no. So, don't ask. You own private property. You do what you want on that private property. Oh, you got to have a permit. What if I don't? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You don't have a lot of options these days. All right. So you're going to have to be creative. I know someone right now that bought a piece of property, 10 acres, with a beat up house on it. When you walk through it, you could not live in that house. And they're going to have a time of it. But it's got a good foundation and so on. So there is some of it that's salvageable. But even if they pulled the house down and put a new house up on the foundation, they're in better shape than they would have been otherwise, because they've got a well and they've got a sick that they can use. And, you got to get creative. We got into this place and the house really beat up. The barn was coming down. It was full of trash, just full of trash. It took us days and days and days hauling load after load of trash out of that barn. And we had a huge, massive fire of stuff that we burnt. Massive. I look back on that thinking, wow, we are so lucky that nobody didn't call us on that. But and we made sacrifices over a lot of years to live in this small house and fix it up. And I know people that have said, like people in my own family, how can you live in that house? I could never live in that house. It's like they feel entitled to a clean, dry, and serviceable existence without any sacrifice. What? Nobody owes you a thing. You're going to have to get it on your own. The thing about the United States is you can. You got to think outside the box a little bit. And once you get outside the box, never go back in. You just look at all the people that are in the box and say, oh, you poor suckers. Every now and then, one of them wants a handout. You pull them in, pull them out of the box. But once you get out, stay out and continue to do things outside of the box. Acreage. Yeah, if I was going to do it over again, I would look for woodland and I would look for off-grid. I might look, you know what I would do? I would look for an off-grid property that somebody has already started and then get tired of being off-grid, and then they're selling it. Because you can create the electricity that you need cheaper than you can buy it. You can. There's several ways to do it. And it's, if you do it right, it's reliable. I would do it. I would make the basis of my power production a diesel generator, a two-cylinder diesel, probably about like 24,000 watts. And then I would build, the next thing I build is a battery bank. And the next thing after that was ways to load the battery bank. So when I run my generator, and let's say I need to run a something, you know, table saw or something, so I'm running the generator. As I'm running it, the battery bank is getting loaded, topped off, and then put up solar cells, and they're continually trickling into the battery bank. But if you need to turn the generator on, turn it on. I mean, a two-cylinder diesel, a big one, will sip fuel, sip. And then all you have to do is go to the co-op with your little jugs and get diesel fuel, off-road diesel fuel, and make sure it's serviced all the time. Make sure the oil's good, make sure the fuel's good, and you're good to go. And at first, when you start, you know, you might be having an extension cord running into the building. Well, you can run the coffee maker on this. You know, it might not be the grandiose, but you can improve and improve and improve. Before you know it, it's built. You got something nice, and you're not in debt. Stay out of debt. Do not go and borrow money. Well, you couldn't do that on a off-grid property. They won't loan money on that because they might get stuck with it. So if you find an off-grid property, a lot of times, if somebody wants out of it, they'll do a land contract with you, which would be perfect. Okay. Then timber falling. I'm helping my friends at their property now, getting gardens and more animals going, and I love it. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Okay. I got to get going. I want to head back out to the campfire and spend a little time with Covington. And let's see, are we meeting tomorrow night? If we are meeting tomorrow night for the consulting call, then I will see you then. I do not, no, we are not meeting tomorrow night. We are, okay, this is our week off. All right. And what I'm referring to is the consulting call for Tribe Plus members. You get to have a Zoom call with me every other week, and I will consult with you on your homestead. I'll tell you what I know. You can show me drawings and pictures and all that, and I'll give you my best advice on what I would do if I were you. And I'm very expensive. Pat H says, got it. Like the solution. Pat H, nice. You can do a lot with very land with chickens and raised beds. You sure can. Oh, there's a lot more in here. Ben Timber. I got my CPL last year. I learned a ton taking the class, but still wish Michigan was more free state. Okay. I don't like that statement, Ben. I don't like that statement. You went and got a CPL. You know what a CPL is? It is a permit. It is a license. It is a contract that you just went and got in with the state. And it's a contract that lays over the original contract. The original contract, get your Constitution out, get your Second Amendment out and read it. What does it say, Ben? It says the rights of the citizens to own and bear arms shall not be infringed. And you went and got a permit to carry a gun. You already had a permit to carry a gun. Now, you may say, well, I don't know about that. They say that you could get in a lot of trouble. You may, but when's the last time you got frisked when you had a gun on you? You know, I don't care. I don't like to carry guns because I don't like that feeling of having to protect the gun. I am more of a, if I feel like I need to have a gun someplace, I ain't going. I'm not going there, right? I'm not bringing my family there. There is that important for me to have to shoot another human being, even if I don't, even if they're low life scumbags. You know, I don't want to do it. Just me. I don't feel like killing people, and so I stay away from it. And around here, I chose to live someplace that's safe in a community like this, so I don't need to carry a gun. I don't need to. So I wouldn't get a CPL. But let's say that I want to take a gun over to Ebles to have it traded in on something else, let's say, and it's a pistol. I'm not going to walk in the store with that gun in my hand, swinging back and forth. They all know me, but if I feel like tucking it in my coat, I'll do it. Right? I'm not worried about that because the original contract is the Second Amendment, and it says the rights of citizens to own and bear arms. I'm a citizen, right? I have the right to own and bear. That means present, carry. But with a CPL, you think, oh, I can wear my coat over it and it's okay. You can with the Second Amendment. You can. So that if you read the Bill of Rights, sit down and read it. How much freer do you think you need to be? Like, what freedoms don't you have that you think you could gain if you lived someplace that was freer? Tell me what that is. You have the right to free speech. You have the right to self-protection, guns, no soldiers in your home, your private property. Most places in the world, there is no private property. It all belongs to the state. You have the right to your process, the Fifth Amendment. You don't have to give testimony against yourself. You're free from unreasonable searches and seizures. You're free from cruel and unusual punishment. Read the Bill of Rights. That is your guaranteed freedoms. They're enumerated in the Bill of Rights that come from God. That's how he wanted you to live. So a statement like that, but still wish Michigan was more free. What? Like some states, their constitutional carry. What? The Constitution doesn't apply in Michigan? Of course it does. You just haven't gotten the state to say, we're not going to do this CPL thing anymore. Of course they're going to do it. They make money off of it. Of course they are. All you guys that have those things, you pay money every couple of years to keep that. Dumb. Shannon Hamlin. Hey, I'm watching. Thanks for the info. All right, Shannon Hamlin. I've never been one to want to do things the traditional way. Okay. All right. I'm going to get going. See you guys next week. If something comes up, I'll